Yes, there's absolutely no doubt about that. I mean, I believe that just like an infection could spread amongst the community and create illness or disease, that health and wellness can be as infectious in a community as any disease. And community is one of the strong things that I think are so important, because not only are we wired to take care of and to tend and to nurture, but when we are actually being kind and we're giving, it actually opens up the centers in our body where the field around our body actually expands. So we live by the hormones of stress. I mean, the vital life force, the invisible light that's surrounding every cell, this is science now, is being utilized. And it's being utilized and turned into chemistry, and the field shrinks. So when the field shrinks, we feel more like matter and less like energy, more like particle and less like waves. So now in our world, we're matter trying to change matter. And of course, that's the difficult part, because it takes time for us to get what we want. So again, anybody who wants something, they're wishing, they're hoping, they're wanting, they're trying, they're begging, they're praying, but doing it in a sense of lack or separation. When we start to give, when we start to take care of it, we start to intend for somebody else, the moment we do that, there's a shift in our biology. There's the oxytocin that's created from just being kind and giving signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals a chemical called derived endothelial relaxing factor. Big word, big set of words, just mean the arteries that go to the heart literally swell. They actually, the muscular lining relaxes. So we have a sensation of fullness in our heart that makes us come right from our heart instead of somewhere else. When we do that, those elevated emotions tend to create more coherence in the heart, and the heart begins to produce a measurable magnetic field. So our energy is actually moving out. It's actually moving away, and we feel more connected. We feel more whole. We feel more kind, giving, more caring. We trust more. And in a sense, we're actually emulating some divine quality within us. And the person who's receiving then in community feels worthy and feels grateful, and then the act is continued with another person, and that's what begins to create strong social bonds. And the oxytocin that you're talking about is actually a chemical that causes us to bond. So, but if you look around and you look at the evidence in our world, whether you're looking at television or advertisements or the news or whatever, the emotions that are derived from all the exposure to that stimulation creates more separation. Why would you trust a person if they're another skin color? Why would you trust another person if they're from another culture? Why would you trust another person? There's war, there's deceit. And so everybody is in this selfish world, and the organism is fractured. Now, I don't know if that is intentional or not, but it is a sign of the times that we live in. So then, living in survival, then, it's just not, it goes counter to the survival gene to open your heart when you're in survival. It's not a time to be vulnerable. It's not a time to give. It's not a time to learn. It's not a time to close your eyes and go within. It's not even a time to communicate. It's a time to do everything opposite of that. And so if 70% of the time people are living that way, then they're looking for evidence of someone actually doing it, but nobody's doing it. So what's happening in the world right now is that in anybody that's in the work that we do, the event that we just came from in Brighton, I just left today, we had a community of 900 people at the end of that event that were in love with each other. They thought the same way. They did the same things. They changed in the ways that they could, and they overcame themselves. And the side effect of overcoming ourselves is this tremendous liberation of energy. And we feel connected to something greater. And that connection is with a community that is of similar consciousness, a similar energy, a similar set of values. And that principle in biology is called emergence. And that's the group of starlings, the birds that are all flying in the same direction, or the fish that are in a school, they all turn at once. Well, when you study that phenomenon, you think that there's some leader that everybody's following, that it's a top-down phenomenon. Turns out there is no leader. that everybody is leading. Now, this is the important time in history right now, because we have a stigma that if you lead with too much passion in your life, you're going to get it. Whether you're Gandhi or Martin Luther King or William Wallace or John Lennon or Abraham Lincoln or anybody, you're going to lose your life if you step out of that box and live for die for. When you stand up for truth, you wind up dying for it. But if you have enough people leading, and they're one mind and one heart, you just can't take out everybody, because it's a community that has strength in numbers. Because when you look at those fish, you look at those birds, the appearance of them moving and all in a pattern gives the impression of a larger organism. And that's exactly how species survive. So us as species, if we don't have connection with our very people that are part of our species, we have nothing, because social isolation, if you look at just research on Alzheimer's and age-related memory decline, people who spend the majority of their time alone, they progress the quickest towards degeneration from neurodegenerative disorders. So look at the United States. The communities in the United States have their family in the United States by itself is just enough of a challenge. But you look at cultures, South American cultures, Mexican cultures, look at cultures where family is a high priority. They just have a greater sense of joy, a greater sense of happiness. They judge less. They're not so hard on themselves, all that stuff. And the act of finally giving something or taking care of somebody else is literally going to switch your energy and switch your biology in a matter of seconds. And there's going to be some significant cascade effects that's going to ripple down through community, which is a healthy thing. And then throw in companies and organizations where everybody's competing and angry and resentful and holding grudges and distrusting, and they spend a third of their life there. I mean, no wonder that those people are sick all the time, because they have no immune system. It's not germs that are making them sick. It's the environment that's making them sick. It's very interesting because we're studying that energy in detail, because when we look at people with health conditions, the question is, where is the pattern of that condition in the energy field? Turns out that the pattern of the trauma exists in the energy field that is a frequency that exists more in the three-dimensional world. In this, we could say, like Einstein said, E equals mc squared. Anything that accelerates to the speed of light, that's matter, is going to turn into energy. So the ceiling of this reality is the speed of light. But the quantum is actually what exists beyond the speed of light. That's where things are no longer separate. That's where things are more interconnected. Even time doesn't exist there, or to a lesser degree. So if from a theoretical standpoint, person can raise their energy to the point they're more connected and less separate, that when they begin to go forward and backwards in time, if they're that's a construct, time is a construct, they're actually not going anywhere, because in the quantum field, the past, present, and future all exist in the eternal now. All possibilities exist in the eternal present moment. So when people are truly present and intentional, the act of being present and being intentional can literally change the pattern in that frequency called the quantum, where things begin to become reorganized. And that could have significant changes in a person's biology, because Einstein said that the field is the sole governing agency of the particle, which he didn't say the particle controls the particle. He said the field controls the particle. Change the field, change the pattern in the field, you change matter. So energy and its vibration then is, when you have traumas, it's frozen energy, it's frozen patterns that literally need to be reorganized. And the only way that we can do that is getting to a certain level of consciousness, a certain level of the present moment, that actually can begin to change that pattern in the field. And the pattern in the quantum, all the past, present, and future all exist in the now. So we think we're going somewhere to do that. But if you're in the quantum, there's nowhere to go, because you're everywhere. There isn't even time. There isn't even space. If you don't have space, you don't have time, because time is created by a separation in 2 points of consciousness. So if you're in the unified field, that field of energy that's governing everything material, and you're feeling oneness and wholeness, then you're executing greater effects on the nature of reality, because you're at a frequency that can change the pattern. And the pattern changes in the present moment, although it appears like it's in the memory of the past, but it's really in the present. And I think that's how people see very significant changes when they go back to the memory and they resubstitute a new memory, because that the substitution in the present moment is exactly what's changing the past, present, and the future simultaneously.